Hello there, my name is Cameron Wade. Today we're going to be going over some terminology that aims to help in understanding security-focused object-oriented programming as new concepts may be presented. First off, we start off with classes, which are a template for creating objects that have specific behaviors associated with them. Classes are essential for programming as it's a way to classify and organize data. Encapsulation occurs when data is kept together in one part of a program, which will allow programmers to work on the encapsulated data without them having to worry about the rest of the program. Inheritance. In this, much like humans inherit traits from their parents' genetics, classes can also acquire properties of another class within the program, and this process is referred to as inheritance. Modularity allows for a program's modules to be separated and isolated from each other, in which each separate part would be responsible for a specific piece of code execution. For example, we may have a module that is responsible for loading an image, while we can have another module that is used to transform that image in one fashion or another. Process isolation isn't only specific to programming. Process isolation can also be helpful outside of programming as well. And this can be helpful by protecting a process's execution by barring it from trying to utilize another process's memory pool, which can usually be done by specifying a specific value of memory that the developer wants the process to utilize. Domain separation allows programmers to develop rules that are access-centric, which aid in securing sensitive information from getting into unauthorized hands. Open design is more of a concept that mechanisms shouldn't be dependent on the secrecy of design for the mechanism's security. So whereas if the mechanism's design was known to the public, it should not compromise that mechanism's security or undermine it at all. Defense layering is essentially creating defensive walls for security defense. So when a threat actor wants to exploit a system or gain access, they will have to traverse and breach these defensive walls to gain any meaningful access. And the more layers or the more walls that we put up, the more a user can deter potential threat actors. Least privilege is the act of granting the least necessary access for a user to do their required tasks. This prevents every user from having the option to make administrative changes to systems or applications, and even prevents them from accessing information that may be confidential. Speaking of confidential, the next term we have is confidentiality. And this is the act of withholding sensitive or important information from the public. And this is done so that the sensitive information does not fall into unauthorized hands. Much like our precaution, the least using least privileges and assigning least privileges to users, this protects confidentiality of sensitive information, and we want to protect that confidential information so that everybody doesn't have access to it. This could be information that is critical for business operation, which is information that one would want everybody else to know. Then we move on to integrity, which is the expectation that users with trusted or administrative access only make changes to systems and applications that are trusted and authorized. Availability is the measurement of a system or application's ability to be accessed. For example, if you have a server running an application on it, one might want to monitor the ability to access both the server and the application. we can't access the application and we find out that the server is downed via bad power supply or hardware failure at all, we would know that there is a potential issue. So availability is important in all of IT for a lot of businesses. Data encryption is the act of taking plain text or just regular text and translating it to ciphertext. When utilizing things like a Caesar cipher, the user would need to define a key for the character shift. Afterwards, the original message or the plain text will be transferred to something only the users with the shift key would be able to decrypt. And the encrypted text is what is known as the ciphertext. A domain is simply just a structure for organizing, delivering, and accessing services on the internet. Polymorphism is it's the idea that one method can take multiple forms, and what I mean by that is one method can be used in different classes with different parameters, or even in the same class with the same class but with different parameters. Overriding is when objects in a program share common behavior in code, while overloading is when two methods have the same name and same parameters but behave differently when executed. Essentially, just remember two methods, same name, different function. Abstraction is taking an idea, concept, or even a program that is complex in nature and breaking it down in a simpler way by reducing those complexities. This can even help programmers cut redundant code out of a program too. Minimalization is used to create the most efficient functions while using the least amount of resources. These functions still do need to be secure enough as to not be compromised by a threat actor, though.